All right. Well, here it is, little after 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. Glad to have everybody here on episode 9 of What Makes It Tick. So, thank you all for joining us. And I want to say a big welcome to Will Waters, a good close friend of mine, and he is now with Audinate. And I've asked him to jump in, and though he's a little active there with us at times, whenever he's on our schedule on the discords, but Will works for Audinate now and used to work for New Tech. That's how we met you back in the days in the VizRT. And now he is living the Dante life and living in
Mhm.
the Dante world. So welcome, Will, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, it's been we're going on year 15, 16 now.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of
know
different
it's cool.
productions. This whole thing, I guess we can do production on computers now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think we proved it.
good.
Now we're doing audio on computers even
Yeah,
more so now, which is even
indeed. Indeed. Yeah, so I don't know how we want to dive in on some different things. Over since joining Audney, something that I was really gifted with last year was a project they've been working on for a couple of years, which is really extending the Dante ecosystem into virtualized and cloud environments. Really to not only I think seed and help to push and promote cloud production, but also to just to make sure the user experience and the fundamentals of what we're used to on-prem can extend into those environments without having to completely rethink everything from at least a production or a operator mindset. So
But it's not
uh,
just about cloud too. It's really about remote production more than
well,
just cloud, right?
exactly. I mean, especially I think in the auto world, and open for discussion here, right? I mean, this,
Right.
anybody wants to jump in on the format here. It's not just about having the devices. I mean, audio um, is I think we it's fair to say that it requires a lot of paying attention to clocking and latency. That's always the first question when anybody talks to me about this is like, well, what's the latency like, or latency or more latency, or how does that add latency in my system, and all that fun stuff. So obviously there are propagation delays and speed of light and physics that I'm sure are interesting to some folks, but effectively what we can do is add in some specialness to our the Dante clocking to be able to really handle some buffering so that we can propagate across distance. And fundamentally what that allows us to do is to really move Dante quality audio with a full uncompressed uh, in and between instances in the cloud. Generally, it's AWS right now is what we've been validating everything on. But not only that, but being able to move between regions, which is helpful. Because if you have situations where you want to take your production and extend that across the country or maybe across the ocean, you need to be able to actually think about speed of light propagation at that point. So fundamentally, what we've been able to do is add something we call the Dante Gateway, and I can show some different stuff here,
Yeah,
but
please do.
we can, not to bore people to death by PowerPoint. I promise to try and make this as interesting as possible, but that should be my full screen when that pops up here.
Yep, sure is.
But what we've been able to do here is basically, and again, I'll get through all the sales stuff, but is to fundamentally hold to a few different concepts and pillars here. We want to be able to distribute that audio globally, whether it's for different teams or languages or whatever those needs to be, and that even includes maybe comm systems or whatever it is for production, for comms, for whatever it is that you need. We have to keep it reliable, and of course, we also want to add in IT automation tools now. I don't know how many people on the call have looked at or seen the Dante Domain Manager. That's actually something that Audinate brought out a number of years ago, and it really allows for the audio data, not just the audio, but the control, the firmware updates, aspects of dealing with everything that is Dante. Makes it IT friendly. So it's not just about opening things up But we can manage it as well as do setup and teardowns, because fundamentally that's what we want to get to, right? Is being able to really use the tools when they're needed. Otherwise, they don't exist. It all goes into the ether. And then remote tools, of course. So there's 4 components in our suite that we get to. And it's that domain manager, which is actually, you see here at the bottom, that handles all of the management of all the various virtual Dante components that happen to exist in the live production environment. We also have a new version of Dante Virtual Sound Card that is specifically developed for and to handle virtualized environments. So it has bigger bigger buffers to handle some of those higher latency connections that we were talking about, as well as being able to work with unicast clocking in a way that is a bit different than what we were used to on-prem. And to that, we've added two products to this suite. One called the Dante Gateway, which is that third component here. And what this allows us to do is really it allows for us to take, for instance, the on-prem Dante audio, and I'm talking full PCM, no compressed audio. Like it does require a really stable connection. You're talking about 2 megabits per second per PCM audio stream. But if you have that bandwidth and that connection, the Dante Gateway sits at the front of the cloud or in the VCP and receives that audio and handles the clocking between the on-prem location and anything that you would have in the cloud. So basically that smooths all of that out and handles all of the heavy lifting there. And since we had audio in the cloud, of course, and you should be able to access that as you need to and to scale, we decided to add a new component into the Dante Connect ecosystem called Remote Monitor, which effectively allows you to take any of those Dante channels that are flowing around in the cloud and convert that to a WebRTC for mode for listening monitoring. So it gives us availability to really put things anywhere, and we run this internally between our offices in Sydney and London. We've had things out in Northern Virginia. A single domain manager only has to run in one instance as long as the security groups are open, and you can really pass audio anywhere you need to. So we have broadcasters that are utilizing this now from on-prem to being able to take all of their Dante gear and really push that directly into their production system and utilize that with products like from Viz, from Waves, with their MX mixer for being able to push into the Grass Valley amp system. There's others that are out there that announcements that I can't talk about until we're out of embargo at NAB timeframe. But there's some bigger and even more impressive audio DSPs coming to market pretty soon that you'll see there. So that's like the overall. And again, not to get out in full sales pitch type things. Licensing is all handled through that domain manager. So you can bring these things up and down as needed. And it's just about entitlement that you apply there. So I can show a few things, but if you have questions, I don't know. I don't need to just talk at everybody here. So, thoughts, comments. I don't know, Jeff. What do you think?
For what the part that impressed me the most when we first started talking about this was the number of channels, because I'm thinking 16, like SDI embedded audio, simple, that just translates. But when you told me they wanted to pull and push 256 channels, that's impressive. That's really impressive to be able to take all that audio in sync at that point too.
And that's what the DVS with Connect allows you to do. So each one can deliver up to 256 channels. We really do them in banks. You buy the 64 or the 256 variant. Same thing with the gateway. So it really depends on how much you're pushing. So, if, for instance, we have a broadcaster that's doing racing, I think that they were pushing 130 or so different microphones from around the arena, the various car audio, some intercom, so all, once you start counting all of it up, I mean, it stacks, very quickly. So then you need to be able to time all that together. You need to be able to push that into the cloud production and really use it as you see fit.
Sure, sure. So it's not just for those that are doing multi-language types things that we need extra channels on. It is really adding in the more live production aspect also. That's outstanding. Well,
Yeah, and fundamentally, and I'll just pop over to, I guess, more demonstration.
yeah, please.
Hopefully, people on the call have seen this little tool before. I'll bring this down.
The one that
So,
stays up on every desktop that I have all the time. Yes.
yeah. So with Dante Controller, one of the things that you'll see here is there's actually like a little domain that pops up over here, and actually in the just your standard tool, you have you can actually connect to what would be what we call the Dante Domain Manager, or now Dante Director. That's something else I can talk about here a little bit later. But this pretty much gives us access. You log in. This is running right now in the instance in London, in AWS in London. And in this particular group, I have some transmitting and receiving devices that both are actually sitting in AWS in London, as well as in our Cambridge office on-prem. So we have a gateway, basically a gateway that receives audio from the Cambridge office. I'm running an instance that is running Reaper right now. So let's just pop that up real quick. This is actually using nice DCV for those that have seen that remote desktop tool. And I just have right now, so I can show you some audio, 16 channels of audio playing in Reaper, just to give me something to start with here. And then there's that remote monitor tool. We'll come back to that. But on-prem, we also have a gateway, and that's to receive back. So a lot of times what we see is that even if you're pushing 256 channels up, you're doing all of that in your mixing, but you only need 64, or even, a stereo, or maybe a 5.1 or whatever you need coming back down. Right. And so that remote monitor application sits on your local network. And that again allows you to get the full Dante back into the local network. And again, all of this is connected. So really, once it's in the cloud, your user experience is just like what you see or what you're used to in the Dante controller experience.
It just appears as devices.
Yes. Yes. And
wow.
So these are the same with our on-prem devices. We have a mixer there and gateway. To be honest, I haven't even been there and physically seen it. So, fortunately, it's late there. So, if we turn on audio full blast and someone's left something open, hopefully, the limiter on the speakers will catch it. But anyway, something that I told you about as well is that we have that remote monitor tool, right? So actually what you see here is I have this running, and this is just running on an Ubuntu instance and the same VCP and AWS. And we can then route just what you see here. Maybe I should pop this over, remote monitor. If I look at my receive here, I've brought in that Reaper, like 2 channels of the Reaper, right, which is our main mix. And if I grab my web URL here, I can go directly to the URL. We can configure to say I want 2 active channels there, and then I can deploy that. And Jeff, or actually anybody, let's see if we crash the whole thing. If you want to take the QR code, just
do it.
Throw that on to you should be getting some stereo audio there.
And so you just have to hit the red start button, and then you can talk.
Well, somebody's listening to it.
I got it. That fast. That's crazy. So this could be the monitoring tool for whatever you're mixing for the cloud. This could also be a queue tool. So that could be for any of the other mixes. If you needed to, you have mix minuses to manage, or had separate aux sends for languages or whatever, you could have each one of those channels selectable.
You can select it, and again, it pops up in Dante Controller just as the sources, as a destination that you would normally normally running. Now, I will, to be clear, this tool, it is a WebRTC version, so it is a compressed delivery. But if you have a producer that is looking for confirmation, or you need to send something to your graphics op, or you have something that someone just needs a quick program mix. Having a Dante endpoint that ends up on a web browser, whether it's mobile or on your PC, is pretty handy.
And what is the latency like then? We got to ask that question, Will.
The latency, WebRTC. Okay, you've asked some really good questions here. So one of the things that
I'm gonna do it the dumb way. So pull up Reaper. I'm gonna listen to it. And
pull up Reaper. Okay, hold on.
Pull up Reaper. Now,
not a good test. You got to factor zoom in there.
Exactly.
No, but that's a common platform. So we'll go with that as somewhat. So mute it.
Let's see. Hold on. I'm not a big Reaper. I know enough to get in. And let's see. Where's my? If anybody is,
let's look at real numbers. That window you just had open that said 2 milliseconds. Is that just ground to cloud and back?
Let's get to
within your region of UK. I mean, how much latency am I looking at to go from like UK to Utah?
UK to Utah, that probably would be somewhere around 60 to 70 milliseconds.
Way too much.
Well, what we've discovered is it's what that's speed of light. I mean, you can't get around that, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're on the Amazon backbone or it's public. It doesn't really matter.
Like I'm holding out for transwarp beaming.
Yeah, I mean, we do Sydney to
Starlink lasers
is typically around 70, 72 milliseconds. It stabilizes pretty well there, utilizing the Amazon backbone.
So as a big time A1 as you are, Greg, why do you say that's too much? What is your where
well, sitting in my seat, it's not just how long does it take for that microphone to come to my fader. Okay, I got to send a mix back to whoever's talking into the microphone. So if you're telling me that it's 70 milliseconds coming here and another 70 milliseconds to go back, now I've got to build mixed minuses for talent and whatnot, because you can't just put their microphone back into their feed, because that's anything over, I like to say 8, but I think realistically 10 milliseconds, people start hearing that in their ears. It beats with their bone conduction. Okay. And at first it just sounds like a wah-wah pedal on a guitar, flangey, and then it gets, as the longer it gets, it's delayed, and then you get into seconds, then it's like satellite delay, where I hear every, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and people melt down to that point.
So I'm a huge fan of not having to deal with that for starters. So can I just have you come in and come back fast enough that you don't notice? Masters, great example. I got a golf course 25 miles down the road, and I actually have my Dante network goes all the way over there on dark fiber, along with video, audio, all kind of other comms and whatnot. But the round trip is like a millisecond. It's fast. And the truck guys, the tech managers are all like, oh, no, you need to do these Matty things and these converters and this and that and the other. Dante, nobody likes Dante. Dante's always going to crash. And I'm like, no. This is what we're doing. And they're like, all right, fine, you're on your own. And I'm like, thank you. But yeah, no, it worked incredibly well last year. And I'm happy to say that we're going to repeat it all again this year, come April. End of March. Got same truck from what I hear so far, unless I luck out and get the new ND2 truck. Oh, that would be really nice. ND1's going to be really nice because I just walk into audio and go recall 2023, put in a couple of patch cords and wait for my A2s to set up things in fact. So that'll be really nice. But
you were thinking about mixing, right? You're thinking about mixing in your place, not necessarily just conference. You're thinking on the latency is an issue because you would bring everything back, mix it at your place, then push back everything back to the site.
Well, I mean, mixing, I have to deal with whatever it is. If I'm on site, great, everything's fast. Less headaches, and as soon as we start putting, remote sites in line, okay, what do I have to deal with? Because at the end of the day, I'm still mixing what everybody mutes at home. when they go to the restroom or whatever. So,
Right.
my seat doesn't really change, it just how I deal with these extra latencies is the only thing I pretty much have to factor in anymore.
Wouldn't you say, I mean, how I've dealt with it is, and how we've dealt just recently, last week dealt with it, was that mixing was done for the mix minuses and the things that are time dependent. We were doing that on site at that point. So that
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
DSP is doing it on site.
Yeah,
In-ears,
for the most part, yeah.
in-ears have to be on site unless you're talking about your dark fiber down the road, but
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I used to unilaterally say yes, but now I have trunked frames that are all over the country now. NBC trunks me into Stanford, so I have resources that are in Connecticut. I have resources that are in my truck in Georgia. I might have other resources elsewhere too. So, we still have to look at, all those different legs, who gets what, who's listening, who's talking, where do things go? So it's a lot to look at and deal with.
the new world for sure.
Hmm.
I love
It's
the
it's the
idea
world.
of,
It's just how it's all changed. So
yeah,
so
exactly.
having stuff up in the cloud just adds more latency and longer latencies for me to deal with. So
Now,
Yeah, well, Greg, hey,
really, are they using this as a primary mix down, or is this more for secondary content and things like that? For
no,
those
this
that
is
are
this
in
is the
use.
main show that goes to all of US on
I, I,
NBC.
I was asking Will, like
Oh,
on
sorry.
the ones that are using Connect now, are they
Mhm.
using it for the ancillary stuff, or is this
Yeah,
full
I
on?
that's one of the things I wanted to address here. To that, and before I get to your question, Greg, you're bringing up a absolute good points. I don't want to misrepresent anything here. It's just like, for one, I wouldn't be taking and doing something in London from Utah. Like, there are
There's data
there
centers
are
closer.
yes,
Use a data
Well,
center
exactly.
yeah,
closer.
yeah, I just brought
So
that up as,
yeah,
opposite sides of the world, kind of
right. What
not
typically what
necessarily
we
worst
find,
case, but
yeah.
uh it comes up a lot. I mean, I do a lot of virtual stuff that's out of country, and
Mhm,
I mix it all right here at my
mhm.
desk. So, yeah, I mean, and not to poo-poo on any of this new stuff. I'm excited about a lot of it, but yeah, just wish we could get the speed of light to go a little faster. Come on, man. Where's the turbo button?
If you know how to do that, man, we'll both make quite a mint on that one.
It's either speed up light or work on time travel. I haven't figured out which one's going to be easier yet.
About the same.
Uh, but yeah, I mean that's part of what you have to think of. It's like, well, where's your center? What's your speed to that? So what we find is that, typically speaking, when you do have, for instance, the Amazon Direct Connect, we can absolutely get things down to those latency numbers that are. What were you saying, Greg? You wanted 8 milliseconds or less? Is that what you're
Almost
looking at?
anybody, when you hear your own voice delayed at 10
Mhm.
milliseconds, it's when it starts
Yeah.
sounding phasey.
Yes.
And the thing about on-air people, they only hear their own voice that way because it's the bone conduction. You hear yourself real time
Mhm.
Right.
right here, and then I hear it electronically through this little aquarium tube that's in my ear. So it beats. It's like, when you tune in to frequencies that are just almost not right, and you get that little weird, UFO kind of sound.
Mhm.
Um, but everybody else that's talking, he doesn't have the bone conduction. So even though I'm standing right here, it's not delayed enough for me to hear the through the air and through my earpiece beating, and I don't have the other guy's bone conduction to deal with. It's only my voice that sounds like that. Give me any announcer in the world that won't complain that how come I'm the only one that sounds funny? What's going on here? I mean, seriously, it's a sensitive issue with, the top end talent. So, but yeah, 10 is almost anybody can hear the beat start at 10. And a lot of
Mhm.
people like me, I can start hearing it around 6 or 7 myself. But I know what I'm listening for, and I'm very trained ear, so 8 seems to be, as long as I can stay under 8, I don't have to worry.
Gotcha.
Sure. Well, I think that's a really good marker for all of that. So, typically what we found, and to back to your question, Jeff, is just like, well, our main mix is happening. Yes, main mixes are happening there, but what a lot of what we find is that in broadcasts, there's a few different things here, but there's obviously the live mix and everything, but then there's also additions, to be able to take that. So we're not really always looking to completely replace everything that's happening on-prem. It can be an addition too. For instance, being able to deliver and, somebody's working on a spatial mix, or being able to deliver, different mixes for your 5.1, your 7.1. Being able to work in that mode so that you don't necessarily have, those are all heading for broadcast, which need to be, of course, maintained and understood, but not necessarily, returning back for in-ears or IFB. So it's intended to be an addition. And again, we're looking at that from a standpoint of, basically making sure that you don't have to completely rethink every part of the operation. Obviously, there are new things that we have, new skill sets to develop, such as making sure you understand propagation delays and latencies.
Right.
What you're seeing right here, though, I think there was a question a long time. I want to get back to that. What's this 2.2 millisecond? This is, we can actually time that and see what things would be between Dante devices within the same VCP, or between instances, for instance, or between the gateway and the on-prem. So you can actually look and time all of that out and see what your metrics would be, and really be able to dial that in as best case as possible.
So when that says London Reaper at 4 milliseconds, that is its internal DVS. That is what is set to.
Yeah, so I'm connecting that. This is the remote monitor. So this is actually receiving from the Reaper, going to remote monitor here, and this is the information that you get on that.
Gotcha. Great. And what is the remote monitors being new? So I don't want to get deep into the pricing and things like that, but the real needs that you would need is gateway, DDM in one or two layers, and then the version of DVS that's acceptable.
Yeah. Actually, you can even go without the gateway if you have a good stable connection under about 40 milliseconds. So for some of these things we were just talking about with Greg,
so if you're using
the gateway might not even be necessary. Right. Yeah. So the gateway is really to go beyond the what we can do in the standard application.
Right. And this is all at 48 kilohertz.
This is all at 48. Right now that's where I'm told. I mean, I would love to get information about this, but this is, I'm told right now that that's all people were really needing or asking for, at least from broadcast.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Think about other things for audio and, getting out for spatial stuff on festivals and events and various things like that. Right. I think that there's a good cause for some of that, but let's be honest. I also need to have some applications and DSPs that are also working at that same level that are in that production role. So part of it is building the ecosystem, which of course we are working with a number of vendors trying to make that better.
Great. All right, what was the other thing that you wanted to show me?
What was the other thing I want to show you? Well, that really brings us to what else did I have with all of this? So, I mean, part of it too, like I said, is that what we're finding is people wanting to actually move between locations for silent language, for being able to take a few of those together. But the other thing that is new and fun and is happening at Audinate, well, we have a number of things, but is that what we call the Dante Director, and that is actually in an open beta right now. So if anybody wants to, you can certainly go right to the Audinate website, sign up for that, and that really allows for more of a managed. It's management of Dante devices in a way that is. It's a service, so but also brings about some of the functions that you have in Dante Controller, for instance, and modernizes that a bit. And I just say at the high level, for instance, even you can do connections via the web browser on your phone. So The intention right now is really more geared towards, I guess, the AV installer and the manager, working with say 20 to 50 devices type stuff. But there's it's in beta right now. So we love feedback on any level. Because there's a lot of plans and things that we can do there, but we of course want to be able to have the feedback and actual users experience, and not just us PMs sitting in a room imagining stuff up. It's always important to see what people think.
Is there is the Dante director, so you say management, so DDM sort of does management.
DDM does, well, it does the same thing. And, just to give it's basically a web-based, what is it? Let me make sure I'm not showing my ribbon here, or no, I can do this. I can actually just show the whole thing. There we go.
All right.
I can use PowerPoint. This gives you the ability to basically work with your domains, whether they happen to be, gives you an opportunity to make connections even remotely. You don't have to be on that local network if not. And yes, Dante Domain Manager does those functions. Okay. The challenge that I think we've had though with a lot of people is that Dante Domain Manager actually requires quite a bit to deploy. You need to know something about virtual machines. You need to be able to set up your own hypervisor. You need to be able to push that out, do a whole lot of internal DNS calls. And hey, it's a great tool, and don't get me wrong, it's very powerful. But what we found is that there's a lot of folks that they're just not that interested in having to develop the IT skill set, and maybe their IT counterpart is not so excited about managing their audio. So we give an opportunity now for really being able to lower that barrier of entry, and have those deployments, and being able to do some different things. Also, if you have something where you can connect up site to site, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not saying this is everything we'll go to, but for those that are astute, you can see that there's other workflows that could then be potentially delivered, based off of having that knowledge and awareness of what's happening with all of those Dante devices. So,
does this also include the like Dante controller with the abilities to update and monitor firmwares and stuff, or is that still the Dante controller?
Is not in the beta, but that is definitely part of what's intended for the general release. So
overall, big glass view of your Dante infrastructure.
Yes.
Without having to look at a cross point on a controller.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
And how soon is, you said it's in, is it in beta or beta?
There's an open beta right now. So you can I should be prepared for these things. You can tell I'm not the sales guy. I think I have, where is it? Dante Director, sign up for the free beta. So the Audinate site, audinate.com, and Dante Director beta right under software, product software.
Cool. I'm gonna definitely do that. I hadn't been able to catch up on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that's all hosted in Audinate's cloud and everything.
Yes.
No deployment from us.
Yes. So awesome. That would be the same type of situation. I mean, if you want to self-host and do different things, well, we have a product. It's DDM, our Dante Domain Manager for that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. And can you mention pricing yet on the Director, or is it still to be determined?
What has been proposed is it's basically $1 a device. Cool. So, but don't hold me to that. Pricing is subject to change before general availability, but that was the stated pricing around the ISC timeframe, which stated at the show and different things like that. But
for what time period is that?
Feedback
per month?
We're looking for.
Day, month, year, perpetual?
No, that'd be subscription. $1 per device per month.
Okay. Well, I only have 2 devices.
Well, there you go. No, I think that the
one in each hand
pack is up to 20 devices. But again, don't quote me on pricing because it's in beta.
Well, that's still, I mean, that just in the general aspect of that, that's pretty, especially if it's a SaaS, so you're not having to worry about maintaining that stack yourself. I would definitely, if I had a machine running 24/7, I'd be spending $20 a month without a doubt. Without a doubt. Closer to about probably 50 or 60 is as a couple of my machines that are running indefinitely. So I don't even, the thing is, we don't even think about what that server box that I have back there whirling and making all that noise, what it's actually sucking in energy. I try not to think about that and how much it's costing me to run, but
Yeah.
you do think about it in the cloud because you see it.
Right. And I think this is where this all gets to, right? I mean, same thing with Dante Connect. We have pricing that is right now it's set up on more of an annual commitment, although working very hard to bring that down and eventually get to more usage based. But part of that is us building out the infrastructure and making sure that we have that. And frankly, there's a lot of different, depending on right now, it's really geared towards broadcast. Right. But to be able to bring things along for those that aren't running all of their productions, say in an AWS instance, there's got to be some infrastructure around it. Maybe something like Director that gets attached to hold that management, makes it easier to deploy. Put some things out from that standpoint. So there's a lot of plans here, but awesome. There's nothing that stops you from getting started if that's something you're interested in.
Man, you've been busy. You've been busy, Will.
Yeah, well, I look at all the stuff to get done. So, I mean, it's good to hear. But hopefully this resonates. And
I'm already thinking, as I told you in the pre-show a little bit, I'm working on some projects right now that are 100% going to be remoting all that. And that is, that's exciting to see that now I don't have to worry about rethinking or tying in multiple systems. And it's like I could keep it all within the Dante world and move my audio from place to place without having to think about it. And this is going to be game changing for us.
Well, indeed. So, and of course, feedback is always welcome, and that includes anyone, here on. I'm happen to be in the Discord. Happy to take any of the feedback there. We're looking to build this stuff based off of really what real world needs are, and not only that though, this also presents something where it's like we have what we call those virtual sound card applications, but ultimately Dante is an ingredient that sits in with other vendors. So whether they're working to be best of breed on anything. So one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we're delivering those entry points so that we can do the things to enable cloud production, but also the lowest latency. Because to be honest, a lot of times we do have to do conversion, and conversion always adds that step. So if we can get Dante native with other vendors and do that in the cloud, just like we've done on-prem, then I think that helps the challenges that Greg was just talking about, because they're real.
True. Ronnie, tell us a little bit. We have a little bit of a history, but tell us about what is your use of Dante in the world. Are you heavy in it, or is it just something else you use as a tool?
No, I think I'm pretty lightweight in it. We use Dante with. So I'm House of Worship. So we use Dante to handle a lot of the signal flow in one of the main buildings. And so yeah, we're fortunate enough we have an Avantis, and so we've got a SoundGrid card in there for waves, because every performer wants to have waves, and then it was cheaper to buy the card than it was to convert from Dante to SoundGrid with the box. So but we also use Dante and send that. We used to actually have Yamaha, and we would send Dante out to literally, like that was how we got front of house out into the auditorium. We've since moved to Avantis, and we're just using their network connection between the stage boxes. But gotcha. Our in-ears are Dante still, and so we've got a separate SQ series Allen and Heath that is Dante into it's a 48 channel in-ear system. So
Wow. 48 in-ears.
40, well, no, it's 48. We don't use 48 in-ears,
So
but
for
each
20.
musician has the option
Okay.
of 48 channels to dial in.
Yeah, you were blowing my mind there for a second.
No. We're not using
Oh my
48
gosh.
in-ears. No, I don't work for Joel Osteen or anything. We're like, 6 to 10 musicians on stage at a time.
Still, that's not shabby. That's still
It's
quite
a
a bit
very nice
to
setup.
manage.
It's a
That's
very
really
nice
cool.
setup.
And but now, so this going Dante back into those, and those are all wireless. I'm assuming, or
Some of them are
wired in?
wireless and some of them aren't. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what do we use? We use actually was just accidentally scrolled up on conversation with Mickey, who's hiding in the wings here. But we use an in-ear mixer system.
How many separate channels do you mix, Ronnie? For the
For
eight, are those 8 separate channels or 8 musicians? Some share a mix.
no one shares a mix.
I've pretty
As they
much found
should.
that.
As it should be.
No one shares a mix. Some of them, I think it's called a live mix. Yeah, Digital Audio Labs live mix. So that is the SQ gets the audio. Some of our musicians prefer to be mixed from the SQ directly, and so we'll have somebody. Those are normally the people who are the vocalist or whatever, which they really don't want to go touch their own box, right? But from the Avantis to the SQ, we're Danteing over just completely untouched, straight from the preamp into their ears. So we're, it's what latency, that's where the latency is super important, right? Because it's going straight to their in-ears. But from there, it goes into Digital Audio Labs live mix system, which actually, I think I misspoke. It's 24 channels. So you can have 24 different Dante channels going into the live mix system. And so the positions that are more stationary, like a drummer, guitarist, even certainly keyboards, they have a touch screen where they can just dial in whatever they want. And so the Dante channels are coming into the live mix brain, and then from there it's going out into the controllers on the stage. So yeah, but I'm very, very comfortable with Dante. I just put it on its own network and leave it alone, and it runs.
So, Ronnie, you still have one of those stationary drummers? Is that what I hear?
We haven't actually lifted them in the air and spun them around yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah,
Good.
that's
Yeah.
gotta happen.
Yeah,
Let us know when it
absolutely.
happens. We want to see that. Yeah.
What we did, it's funny though, the church did have an IT company come in, and they saw a network switch, and they're like, we're going to take that over. And then they're calling me going, I don't know why, but our sound system stopped working. It's like, well, I'll come fix that for you, but you remember my hourly rate, right? So anyway, they subsequently lost that contract, and now I just run everything.
Yeah, you're managing that everything else now too. So, oh, my printer's not working.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Understandable. I mean, I've gotten that more than a few times. I've been involved in that at my church, and yeah, I ended up walking away. It's like, no, I don't want to deal with that. I just like, I'll take care of the AV. We'll just keep it separated. I have ultimate respect for all you office guys that are dealing with that office stuff.
There's no reason.
Yeah.
There's no reason unless there's 3 different there's 4 different buildings at the main campus. So there's been 0 reason to transmit Dante to another building yet. I mean, I'm ready if we need to, but other than that, they're literally sitting on old Netgear switches, not even the AV line. We use for one of my friends' companies, I talked him into the AV line because we do NDI video and we do Dante audio and ArtNet and everything, and those work amazing. But as far as Dante, we really my only use case so far has been those in-ear monitors, and previously the front of house speakers were, but they're not anymore. So
you're going over I forget what it's called with the Avantis network too. It's an
whatever their thing is. Yeah.
And then it bumps out to analog at that point to the front of house speakers.
It does. Okay. Yes.
pretty common, pretty common. Staying in their ecosystem sometimes is easier for
Well, of
that.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Will, I just thought of another question regarding the Dante implementations in House of Worship, and
Mhm.
I know you know the metrics. You don't want to share 'em, all of them, but where's the biggest use for Dante? I always kind of felt like I was an outlier until I met Greg, um, of using Dante in broadcasts. I was like, why aren't you guys doing this? Because there I was working next to trucks and they're doing Maddie or Lord, lots of DT12s pulling analog,
And we
you know?
still do all of that.
But I haven't in years, decade, and literally over a decade. So besides that mic line to the Dante preamp, that's my longest XLR or analog on the run. What is the most used? What's the most penetration for Dante?
I don't know if I'm the best person. I probably need to get, someone on the marketing metrics to really give everything. But from what I know, all right, is that I mean Dante has a very big penetration in structured sound, being able to deliver from ceiling microphones to Dante speakers, and really be able to take advantage of network and interoperability from that standpoint. It is used heavily in the live production space. Shure microphones, Sennheiser microphones, back to the mixers, and again to amplifiers and DSPs. On the broadcast side, I can tell you it's used a lot more than people will admit. Maybe that's probably the best way to say it. So
Comms.
there
Sure.
yeah, exactly. Comms, every one of the comms, major comms manufacturers has something that they're working with on Dante. And yeah, the rest of it becomes a situation of again, we're finding success with Dante Connect because broadcasters have a lot of on-prem equipment and they can just basically extend that into what they're wanting to do with their cloud production.
So let's think future, which I know there are some devices out there that are 2110 AES 67 compliant and ready to go. Do you feel like you're running alongside the broadcasters that are thinking only 2110, or
Okay.
how is that working?
So I'm going to assume we're all friends here, and I need to, put on my Will hat,
Put on your
talking
Will
about, what Will wants to see the industry do, maybe versus, what I need to be as an agent of a company vendor. But look, standards are fantastic, and Dante works with AS67 today for interoperability. That does require you have to think about some specifics when you're architecting the Dante ecosystem. When we're talking pure software, like it's a little more challenging because you have to think about how you're going to do the conversion, again, latency and some various things like that. So I'll go back to this. I mean, fundamentally, our standard, I think we can all agree, is Ethernet. So yes, we can run with other protocols out there because you sometimes need those things where you need to get your design, your production design done and finished. So we're all about interoperability. We want to be able to provide those tools. And if I think that there's a whole lot of discussion that goes, well, we want open standards versus proprietary. And for anyone that's on the call that knows my history, that I have really been always saying that standards are fantastic, but they are very slow. So, with Dante, we can respond, or we should be able to respond to feedback and implement that into the ecosystem much faster than having to wait for roadmaps and proof of concepts and committee meetings. Although it doesn't mean the committee, the standards are irrelevant. So is that a good way of not answering your question?
Oh,
By answering your question?
You have perfected the perfection of not answering.
Yeah. It's fundamentally it's you need to use the thing that you need to get done for your use case and your production. And
but in comparison, they're not even talking that many channels in the 2110 spec, is there? Isn't it stopping short of 256 considerably?
I don't know if things are really specified on. I mean, it's been a little while since I've read the specifics there, but depending on okay, maybe I should step back on this. I think sometimes it depends on if you're coming at it from a video first viewpoint or if you're thinking about it as as a true audio engineer or audio designer. So that if you're thinking about it from what we've had to just pay attention to or do things because it's been the video standards that have enabled some of this production and everything. So we tend to get locked into the 816 channels and say what SRT specifies or something that NDI has, versus like if we're just going to push audio and then marry that up. And here's the other thing that goes about it. It's NMOS, right? NMOS has done a tremendous has pushed things forward in a tremendous way to get not just interoperability, but to get the same user experience between different vendors. It's my personal opinion that there's still a long way to go for NMOS adoption and interpretation, within vendor products. And until you have something that is ubiquitous, that makes for a very good place for products and protocols like Dante to make sure we're filling the appropriate gap and to enable customers and producers and content creators to do what they need to do.
Agreed. Yeah. For me, I mean, I come at it from the user standpoint too, is 2110 is a beast. It's just a beast to manage and connect pieces together. I can train somebody with just as long as they have 2 fingers to click and do the Dante thing. I mean, once they understand the whole idea of transmitter receiver, that was it. That was the hardest things to get across to some newbies that I had working for me. Once they understood that, then they could route audio. They just had to understand that simple complex.
Yeah, and that's really where we want to be now. I think a lot of people may be not even aware that now we have the ability to even pass information. For instance, maybe channel names, along the way that, and this is one of the things about Director or Dante Domain Manager. There is an API that's being developed alongside of that allows for control, and that's built around a GraphQL, which is more a modern web-based control language, or I guess more web development API language that allows for more enhanced control and being able to work with that. But again, if you're thinking about all of these devices disparate amongst multiple manufacturers, you need to have something somewhere that's centralized. And that's why it needs to sit with like a domain manager or now Director, where, if you want to adjust channels on your Stream Deck, or you want to be able to push that metadata or channel names from device to device, there's some value there, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that part. And having a top-down way of writing meaningful names into the channels, that would be well welcomed. One of my beat my head against the walls many times because you can't remember it from show to show. So that's another thing too for me is having that backlog, like Greg was saying, is like he's going to be able to walk into the truck, hopefully, fingers crossed, and go recall. And
I'm one of the few people that actually spends a little bit of time, and my console file is my notebook. I name buses. It's not just aux 1 through 96. Aux 1 is, Mike Tirico's, and there's Judy Rankin. And, so it's like when I recall a file, it's like, oh, that's what I was doing here. Because if you just call up aux 1 through 96, that was a year ago. And my gray matter is just not what it used to be. So yeah, and the trucks are picking up on this API stuff. I mean, the 2110 trucks, actually ND1's not even 2110. I can name an aux bus on my CalRec. Okay, so booth talkback. Okay, great. And then I can route that out of the CalRec through the routing system into a Wohler speaker that's in front of the director producer. And as soon as I make that route, that knob now says booth talkback. I don't have to go up there with my white tape and Sharpies anymore, although I do love a good arts and crafts day. But yeah, I mean, the glue is getting better and better. It's amazing how much time that saves me. I don't have to deal with arts and crafts anymore. I just, program it, route it, and it all happens. I love that. More of that,
Yeah.
please.
And and that's exactly where I think, and why I say Ethernet becomes the real standard there, because one of the great things that I learned from Dr. Cross, our friend Dr. Cross, Jeff,
Yeah.
a long time ago, he's like, when you're thinking about all this stuff, it's like we don't think about whether when we open up a web page, whether it's a PNG, a JPEG, an SVG, whatever, it all exists together. Fundamentally, what we need to be doing as technology vendors is creating the appropriate, like bringing our value and then creating the appropriate APIs so that can be extensible and then deliver ways for people to be able to develop and get their content done and produced as they need to.
Yeah, making it easier. And don't you love how every time anybody says API, Jonas looks over at us and goes,
I mean, I'm glad to hear that word together with Dante.
I think that's your favorite word in the whole world.
well,
I said Jonas, the API king.
Yeah.
I just hope those APIs don't cost $6,000 a month. Then.
So yeah, Joe, like let's have a conversation. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, definitely. And I love seeing one of my other old friends here, Joe Pashley, popped in there. No video on because he's probably taking care of the kids or something. But I drug Joe into Dante very, very
There he
hard.
is.
Yes, very, very hard. And he saw the light. He saw the light. And now we're talking about doing some pretty cool remote production stuff. And having Dante in his trucks it's been, would you say game changing, Joe, or just kind of okay?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're saving probably 1,000 pounds just of cable on board on the trucks because everything's Dante. We did AHL hockey championship broadcast. I think it was 11 cameras, something like that. And, a pre and post game set, plus the booth, plus all the mics in the arena, plus all our comms. Our only connection to the building was power, our internet connection, and a TAC 12 for all of our audio and video. And just hours of time changed on that, especially in a building that wasn't friendly for patching.
We've always run into those. Don't we love them?
Yeah.
Oh no, there's fiber everywhere. Yeah, right. No ends on it, but yeah, there's fiber everywhere.
Well, this was the building that had sparks and smoke coming out of the XLR patch panels in a brand new building. So we went full. That was when we pulled the trigger and went all Dante, at least on that truck.
Yeah, that was a good change. Definitely a good change.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
it was super having everybody involved today, and thanks for coming back after being a week off, and we're looking forward to doing this weekly again. As you noticed, we did start posting some of the site stuff on the YouTube site that I created behind this, and there's still more posts to be done. I'll edit this one down because I have some stuff at the beginning that Will and I were talking about that we don't need to air publicly, but we will have a public conversation on the line before too long. And next week, I don't have anything planned per se, so I'm open to take any suggestions. And there's definitely a few lists of things that I have on my checklist. But if anybody has anything they want to talk about, want us to address, and I love to get in deep as we did, like with the comms or the multi-viewers and other things that are more, I guess you would say, involved and opinionated, because we definitely had a few of those. It would be great to be able to it'd be good to get some ideas. So thanks everybody for coming today, and I'm going to go ahead and see you next week.
Thanks all.
Yeah. Okay.